Test. Hey. It's always something. There's always something you gotta forget. Alright. Back up. Okay, so we left off. We left off in Higurashi with, why? Why is it? Okay. A lot of bit weirdness. Hello, welcome. Sorry for the weird start. Apparently things aren't quite working out right. Anyway, footsteps in the title. Yes. Footsteps. Yes. Oh, yeah, that's kind of relevant, ain't it? Alright. Oh, speaking of. I've got one of these of my own. So, I got my own baseball bat. I'm prepared as well. I've had this for like years. And we've always carried it, and it's like my old T-ball baseball. Oh yeah, I've got it. Bat. Yep, indeed. Better be prepared for anything that comes. Alright, anything that comes at you, better be prepared. Better be safe. Don't be so soft, Keiichi. You know, I've heard that phrase somewhere, like, long ago, and it's like, huh, okay, but I knew absolutely nothing about it. It got tossed around as a meme every so often. But yeah, so I've had that bat lying around forever. Figured good prop as any. But yeah, we last left off with Keiichi. I don't know exactly where the last episode was, or where it started from, but we ran into Oishi on like a sick day, and he talked to us and explained to us that all of our friends are involved in the murders very deeply, so, or that's his suspicions, but he doesn't have any proof other than it's all connected. And so he told us that, dropped us off back at home. Our friends found out, gave us some rice buns, gave one of them with a needle in it. We're playing dumb that we weren't able to eat it all, and we started playing baseball to keep a bat around us to protect ourselves. Apparently the bat we stole was from Satoshi, the guy who transferred out, and Rena doesn't want us to transfer out. We also almost got killed by a guy in a van who was legitimately trying to kill us. We hid our will, I guess, behind our clock and told our parents that we wanted that buried with us when we die, because that's logical. But options being limited, it's fair enough. But yeah, so yeah, that's where we left off. Rana was following us in our own footsteps. We chased her down and pointed it out. Now confronted her, and she's worried that she's wondering why we're doing the same thing Satoshi did. 7th arc in its second episode. And I guess I'll wait. I'll wait until I finish this until I watch it, if at all, I guess. Oh, and on that note, I really do appreciate all the fan art and stuff you toss in the Discord, because I don't search for anything. In the event that I search for anything, some major plot point that I shouldn't be looking at pops up, I don't touch that. Same with Umineko. So, the artwork you put in the Discord is the only stuff I ever see of this game. Barring the occasional random avatar pic or something of somebody. But yeah, I actually appreciate all that little stuff. But yeah, I really do appreciate it. It's nice seeing some artwork because I can't look at it on my own. Anyway, back to the story. Satoshi and I had what? All my well-planned actions throughout the day turned out to have been nothing more than a reenactment of what Satoshi had done. Satoshi, had he really been in the same situation as I was now? Good chance of that. The friends he had gotten along with had changed suddenly, and for no reason, at least none that I had noticed, planned to kill him. Then, fearing for his life as I am, he got a bat to protect himself, and carried it around every day to practice his swing. And then one day, suddenly, he transferred. My blood went cold, causing a prickling sensation to course through my veins. Starting near my heart, it radiated outwards, from the top of my head to the soles of my feet, chilling every part of me without recourse. What did she mean by transfer? What did she mean by transfer? Was Satoshi still at wherever he transferred to? Was he the only one who would be able to understand me? Would he be able to tell me why it all ended up like this? More importantly, where did he transfer to? What did she mean by transfer? What did she mean by transfer? Maybe. Before I knew it, I was at my front door. The frigid knob was hard to turn. Was nobody home? Wasn't that odd of an occurrence? I reached into my pocket and pulled out the single key attached to my fur seal keychain. I stepped into the entryway. Just as I was about to take off my shoes, a chill ran down my spine. Someone had entered right behind me. Like a classmate messing around, standing up against my back. You're kidding, right? It had to be my imagination. Logically speaking, it was impossible for someone to be able to hide their presence within my personal space all the way through the door. But there was undoubtedly someone behind me. Hey Casey. How do you know they're there even though they're behind you? Because I could hear the sound of flowing hair. There's no other reason I'd hear that sound. That was the presence. Because I could hear the sound of them blinking. Keiichi Maebara, there's no way you could hear that. My most base instincts were warning me of their presence. Common sense was telling me that it was just my imagination. It was just my imagination. There was nobody behind me. I began to erase the mental image of an eerie figure standing behind me. But at the same time I asked myself, if there was nobody, then what was I feeling? As an uncomfortable sensation crawled up my spine. Actually, wouldn't it be better if there was somebody there? If there was nobody there when you turn around, would you be able to accept that? I'd be able to answer all those questions just by looking behind me. But I didn't have enough courage to even do that simple task. Oh, right. I could try speaking to them. The person behind me might answer me. It was a random thought. I didn't care how I went about it, just so long as I didn't have to turn around. If I had calmed down and thought about it, I would have known that that wouldn't have solved anything. Who is it? I spoke in such a hoarse, broken voice that I couldn't believe it was my own. I could almost feel them contemplating their response. I felt it. There's no way I should be able to do that. Calm down, Keiichi. It's all in your head. That time, I was certain I heard it. As if hesitantly trying to answer my inquiry, I was certain I could hear the sound of somebody inhaling. I heard it. I heard it. I heard it clearly. It was a girl. A young girl. I didn't know who, but a tiny speck of courage in me, however reckless it was, inspired a primal yet fitting solution to this current predicament. A scream. All the force my body released from my lungs through my throat, ceasing all thought processes in my head. Suppressing all my thoughts and emotions, I began to collapse like a house of cards, somehow managing to twist my body and look back as I did so. It was definitely there. Right there. Somebody was there. Until the moment I turned around, until I brought the area behind me into my field of vision, they were definitely there. Falling face up, my eyes traced the remnants of the presence suspended in the empty space. It couldn't be. They were invisible. They looked like they weren't there. But were they actually still standing there? As I screamed, all the emotions I was holding back burst free in a violent wave. However, I was decidedly calm as my emotional dam collapsed. The turbulent wave of pent-up emotions was skillfully diverted into a torrent of aggression. That emotion was definitely required to extricate myself from the bizarre situation happening right in front of me. In my state of heightened lucidity, I entrusted my body to the fury. The metal bat held firm in my right hand, as if drawn there by a magnet. A mid-level sweep would be the hardest attack to dodge. I remembered reading something like that from a book. I brandished my will to fight. The afterimage of that amalgamation of metal flashed as it swung from left to right, beating against the entryway. The bat slammed into the right wall, the tip rebounding violently. Very calmly, I transferred the force of the rebound into a sweep to the left. The door of the shoe cupboard was split into pieces. Those two swings whiffed through empty space, but they seemed to have a great psychological impact on the enemy. I could feel the panic emanating from that space. The attack wasn't the only thing required. I extricated the bat from the cupboard. It was embedded in and screamed as I spun my entire body around in a large arc. My scream shook the air, imbuing my ferocious swing with even more destructive power. Crack! Without mercy or restraint, my violent strike, with certainly fatal force behind it, shattered the top of the cupboard. None of my attacks struck the enemy, but my ferocity had certainly seemed to impact them. Breathing heavily, my entire body soaked in sweat, the invisible enemy, there, but not there, dispersed. When I was certain that the enemy had retreated, I locked the front door and latched the chain. No way had it only feigned retreat. I was now inside my house. Once again I channeled my aggression and searched the house for the presence. But it was gone. I had succeeded in fending it off. At that moment, the tension drained from my body, and I let out a deep sigh of relief. All the emotions I'd been holding back chaotically merged together and began to flood out. A hodgepodge of fear, accomplishment, and disbelief all mixed together and began flowing through my body. Unable to deal with each individual feeling, I beat them all back with the strongest exhaustion. Even in this moment, I remained composed. After checking that all the doors throughout the house were locked, I went up to my room on the second floor and closed the curtains. I straightened my back and tilted my head back a little. After clearing my mind of all my idle thoughts, I managed to calm down even more. What was that at the front door? There was definitely something there. Thinking about it, maybe it was just an apparition I dreamt up in my confused state. but I really didn't think that was the case. Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. Compose yourself. Rip the shoe cupboard. Rip the shoe cupboard. But no matter how calmly I thought about it, what just happened wasn't a figment of my imagination. It was obviously a supernatural phenomenon, and without a doubt, something was behind me. It wasn't some sort of illusion I saw amidst my confusion and disorientation. Proof? I had just one piece. When I asked who is it, they inhaled as if they were about to answer. That sound had clearly reached my ears. The situation I was in right now was still unclear. Either I'd been possessed by the supernatural phenomenon known as Oyashiro-sama's curse, or this was a ruse by the villagers who believed in it and were imitating it. Either way, their motives were unclear. The roundabout way it had been done was also still a mystery. If it was perpetrated by humans, that would mean admitting that it was Rena and the rest of them doing it, but it would be solvable. Oishi-san and the rest of the police would surely arrest my enemy. But if it was a manifestation of Oyashiro-sama's curse, I wondered what would happen. Oishi-san was very clearly declared that curses didn't exist. At that time, those words were pretty dependable, but as things were now, with the rising possibility that the perpetrators were not human, he suddenly seemed quite unreliable. If I told Oishi-san this was the work of Oyashiro-sama's curse, what would happen? I couldn't imagine his reaction, but it would go without question that a void would expand rapidly between myself and Oishi-san. With me having so few allies to begin with, and not being able to confidently declare whether or not this was a curse, there was no merit to doing that. I'd better keep the facts of what just happened at the doorway to myself. It would be better if I didn't add what happened here to the memo behind the clock. There was still the ever so slight possibility that I was actually confused when I thought I was composed. I was just going berserk in the entryway. How wonderful would that be if that was really what happened? I would be able to refute Oyashiro-sama's curse. But if I denied Oyashiro-sama's curse, then that would mean admitting that Rena and the rest were the perpetrators. If I said that Rena and the rest weren't the perpetrators, then that would mean believing in Oyashiro-sama's curse. By denying both of those, I would be admitting that I myself was losing it. The three options from which I couldn't choose became a trilemma of sorts. They mixed together and formed a whirlpool in my mind, making my head spin. Once again, I straightened myself and leaned my head back slightly to cool myself down. Calm down, Keiichi. Accept what has actually happened as reality. Stop thinking of anything more than that. But I couldn't help but think of it. How wonderful it would be if it turned out I was delirious and everything up until now was a figment of my imagination. Oyashiro-sama's curse wouldn't exist, and I would still be bestest buddies with the Rena and the rest. I would have to be crazy. That was the first time in my life I'd ever wished for such a thing. You may just be. The phone rang noisily downstairs. Generally, there were no calls for me, so I never really answered the phone much. But since my parents weren't here, I had no choice. I squirmed off the bed and went downstairs. Hello, this is the Maibara residence. Keiichi? This is Mom. I intuitively had a bad feeling about this. It was because I thought she was going to ask me to go out and buy some things. So I took the initiative. What? Mind having instant noodles for dinner. There's still a lot of them. The other day we went out as a family and bought a whole case of cup noodles. Pretty hearty. I wanted to get a bunch of different kinds, actually, but they refused since the individual packs were expensive. So instead I got a whole case of the mega-sized pork and bone and ginger-flavored ones I liked. But my parents don't like strong flavors and didn't touch any of them, so the cupboards were still full of them. So you see, there really isn't a need to go shopping, right? Keiichi, I'm not asking you to go shopping. Both Mommy and Daddy have to go to Tokyo right now because of work. Eh? Right now? This was really abrupt. No, we're already here. We left this afternoon. It's quite a distance to Tokyo from Hinamizawa. Gunning at full speed down the highway would take 6 hours. Dad has a license, but since he doesn't like the highway, they likely took the train. It would have taken longer. I'm thinking you might understand since you heard us speaking last night, but it has to do with Daddy's contract. Right now, things aren't going so smoothly. Now that she mentioned it, I did remember that they talked all the time about how his job prospects weren't looking so good. Daddy is really sensitive about things like this, so if we leave things as they are, it will affect his work. Part of my father's particular fragile artistic personality, his emotions change as easily as the fall sky. You could also just say he couldn't take criticism. But something like that can be done over the phone. Keiichi, this is your father's job, so can you support him a bit, please? Anyway, it's just faster to talk about it in person, so there wouldn't be any misunderstandings. As their son, there was nothing more I could say once they started talking about work. So, we'll be back tomorrow night. Keiichi, will you be fine on your own? It's not like I'll die or anything. Keiichi, you shouldn't speak so lightly of dying. If there's something troubling you, just talk to us. I believe Mommy will be able to help out. Yesterday I did bring up if I died rather abruptly, so I suppose they were a little worried. But really, I was more depressed by the fact that nothing would be solved by telling them. But I didn't plan on dying. At least, not while I still knew nothing. I would never allow it. I won't die. I won't. I'll survive even if they gnaw my leg off. See you then. Tomorrow morning. Make sure to wake up. And eat your breakfast. And don't forget to take a bath and brush your teeth. Yeah. See ya. The call ended like that. Sometimes my parents went off to Tokyo for business meetings, but Tokyo was far away. They normally did things by phone. The times they did go were normally planned out in advance. It never happened this suddenly. I couldn't say that those circumstances didn't feel strange, or rather unnatural. Anyway, I only needed to recognize the reality of the situation. That tonight, I was the only one in the house. That when my parents came back from work, I'd be gone, missing, vanished. Looking back on the series of events of the previous 5 years involving Oyashiro-sama's curse, it wouldn't seem that strange at all. Come to think of it, it was getting pretty late. I didn't think it was good that the only light on in the whole house was from my room on the second floor. It was the same as broadcasting to the enemy that my parents were gone, and this was their chance. First, they ran to the living room, flicked on the lights, and turned the TV on to a reassuring volume. Next was the study. I similarly turned on the lights and some music. With this, from the outside, it would look like my parents were here. Once again, I went to the house, checking to see if there was anything left unlocked. When I saw the veranda and the laundry still hanging out there, I went pale. That would have made it too obvious. I needed to take it down. I snatched down the laundry haphazardly and erased all traces that my mother wasn't there. It should be fine now. Ah, the garage. They hadn't gone all the way to Tokyo by car, but they had gone up to Okinomiya Station. The garage was empty, wide open, and in plain sight. This was not good. I panicked and rushed out the back to close the normally open garage door. It should be fine now. Oh, I need to get the paper. Mom always got the paper. Since they left in the afternoon, the evening paper was still out there. My premonition was correct. I pulled out everything from the mailbox and dropped it in the entryway. With this, for sure this time, It should be fine. Come to thinking of it, leaving the cupboard busted like that for my little freakout was kind of bad. I'll just say I tripped and fell, and the bat I was holding smashed into it. Totally. I just fell down the stairs. No big deal. Even so, just leaving it in its current state wasn't good. I should clean it up a little bit before Mom got back and scolded me. I remembered that there was a broom and dustpan in the closet. As I was going to get them, the phone rang once again. Hello, this is the Maibara residence. Oh, is this Keiichi-kun? Is your mother around? She isn't here at the moment. You idiot, Keiichi Maibara. Don't reveal that your parents are gone. You can follow up still. Calm down and take care of it. I think she'll be back soon. That wasn't a good response either. Now they might say they'll call again, or tell her to call them when she comes back. And that's fine. It wasn't anything important. Well then, sorry for the bother. The scenario I feared didn't play out, eliciting a sigh of relief. That call was fortunate in more ways than one. I'd have to deal with any telephone calls coming in from my parents tonight. I was somehow able to deal with the phone call just now, but I couldn't continue to rely on such poor improvisation. I needed to make up a good story to explain that my parents were home, but couldn't answer the phone at the moment. They were making tempura and couldn't step away right now. That wasn't good enough. They were sick and went to bed because they weren't feeling well. Was that going to be safe enough? I was thinking about it on the way back to my room when the phone rang once again. It's like they were calling because they knew I was going to lie. I didn't want to pick up, but I knew I had to. They'd suspect my parents weren't here. I should have just taken the phone off the hook under the pretense that I didn't realize that it was. But since the phone rang, I had to pick it up. I prepared myself and lifted up the receiver. Hello. I stopped announcing this was the Maibara residence. I had no reason to be kind to someone I didn't know the identity of. But unlike my uncouth voice, the person on the other side sounded goofy and lighthearted. Hello. My apologies for calling so late. This is Oishi from the Okinonomiya bookstore. Oishi-san? Is that you, Maibara-san? Good evening. And good to hear that you are doing well. Wait just a moment, please. I grabbed the portable handset and rushed up to my room with it. It was the same no matter where I was since there was no one else home, but I wanted to be in a spot that just felt a bit safer when speaking on the phone with Oishi-san. Sorry for the wait. How are things? Anything changed since then? Just a bit. Just a bit. Yeah, you could say that. Since then... When was that exactly? There was something about the brazen way he talked that rubbed me the wrong way. Last time I talked with Oishi-san was 2 days ago. Went in the car, got sick. They complained. Day after, yeah. The day I stayed home from school, I met Oishi-san on the way back from the hospital. We headed into town for lunch and had a talk. Then after that, Ren and Mihan came to check up on me. Whenever I spoke with Oishi-san, they always knew about it. It was like that since the first time I met him. Today's phone call may be found out by them as well. Hello. Can you hear me, Maibara-san? Huh? Sorry. What did you say? I asked if anything's changed since last time. There wasn't an answer, so I got a bit worried. Not really. The words stopped in my throat. There was a ton of stuff that happened. All of it baffling. What should I talk about? I didn't understand any of it, but I should try asking. If I didn't ask now, I may never have another chance. This night, when my parents weren't home, I had no guarantees I would make it through the night safely, after all. Well, Oishi-san, it seems that someone is after me. Really? It could all just be coincidence, but that day I missed school, and I was sick, the two of them came to check up on me. Which two? Rena and Mion. They started asking about how I had lunch with you. What next? They left me some mochi when they came to visit, but there was a needle inside. Fortunately, I somehow didn't swallow it. I wonder, could that have just been a threat? About the needle. It was just one of those common sewing needles you see all the time. There's a hole to thread string through. Not that, Marabara-san. The needle itself. That's evidence. It could be used as proof that they threatened you. Where is that needle? That's right. That's it. I dropped the receiver and rushed downstairs. When I tossed the mochi, I had overlooked it out of terror, but that needle was a valuable piece of evidence. Let's see. I threw the mochi and needle at the wall together. If it was there, then it would be on the living room wall. But my prudent mother had cleaned the living room wall, and there was not a trace of mochi left on it. Could it be that it dropped in the gap between the wall and the carpet? I frantically searched by running my palms along the carpet, but nothing turned up. I tried moving around the sofa and desks, pulling up the carpet, then flapping it around, but I couldn't find the needle. Did my mom clean up everything without noticing it? It was just 2 days ago. I didn't know that's the day they collected the burnable trash, but it may still be in the trash bin in the kitchen. I turned into the kitchen, opened the lid on the pail, and poured out the contents. But even at a glance, I could tell that it would be incredibly difficult to find the needle in this pile of trash. I was looking for a needle in a trash stack. I know. I'll try running my hand through it. It was a bit gross, but I was looking for a needle. If I felt a small prick, I'll be able to find it. It was a pretty tactless method, but it was the quickest. I held my breath and started striking the pile of trash in my hand. Filth flew about. There was nothing more disgusting than this, but it was not the time to be concerned about such details. I continued on for a while, but nothing turned up. I wanted to search more thoroughly, but I was still on the phone. I shouldn't keep Oishi-san waiting for too long. Later, when Mom got back, I'd have to ask her if there was a needle. I hastily began scribbling on the notepad fixed to the refrigerator with a magnet. Was there a needle? I scrawled the words with a red pen. I then dashed back up the stairs where I had been keeping Oishi-san waiting for far too long. Hello. How did it go? I couldn't find it. I was really overwhelmed when it happened, and I see. It would be great if you could find it. Keep it safe. That's right. The needle wasn't the only incident. I had to tell him about this morning with the hit and run. Also, Oishi-san, that isn't all. Actually, this morning, that van was definitely aiming for me. I could say that without question due to the circumstances at the time. Did you see the license plate? I can search for it from here. Damn. At the time I just flipped out yelling at him, but I didn't look at the plate. What failures on my part with the needle and the plate number. I was so focused just protecting myself that I let some of the most important details slip out of my grasp. I punched my pillow, annoyed at how worthless I was. I'm sorry. I didn't know much more than that. It was a white van. Nothing to fret about, Maibara-san. Anyone would be shaken up after being hit. I guess all this really isn't a coincidence, is it? Oishi-san started to hem and haw over on the other end. I can imagine him folding his arms. Also, Rena is acting strange. How so? What Rena said on the way home today, asking why I was so much like Satoshi-kun. Now I could say it with confidence that Rena knew what happened to Satoshi. She knew that there was more to it than him just simply disappearing. Rena knows. She knows something regarding what happened to Satoshi, the kid who was demoned away last year. What would that be exactly? Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. I'm alright. Keiichi, maybe? Rena said I was the same as Satoshi. She'd said something to the effect that, the way things are going, I'll end up with the same fate as Satoshi. Fate, you say? Exactly what kind of fate did she say would befall you? Transferring out, she said. Transferring out? Rena said Satoshi transferred out. So, given how things are going with me, I'll transfer out, too. Oishi-san let out a stern sigh and then grumbled loudly. Maibara-san, that was probably some sort of threat, or maybe some type of warning. I thought so too. At that point, I started to think. Would it be prudent to sum up everything that had happened up until now as the machinations of some human perpetrator? Other than the theory of it being Rena and the others, I was left with Ueshiro-sama's curse actually existing as the only explanation. Of course, I couldn't tell that to Oishi-san, except Rena's strange behavior could be proof of either scenarios. Whether it was Ueshiro-sama's curse being real, or everything being part of a conspiracy committed by all of the villagers. Rena was involved. Rena had to know something. Rena was suspicious. What exactly was Rena? I couldn't help but think she was somehow involved with the prior string of mysterious deaths. I seem to recall that Oishi-san had admitted that he had dug into Rena's past a little. He was probably just downplaying it when he said a little, meaning he had actually dug pretty deep, most likely. I wanted to hear about Rena. I wanted to know what happened at her previous school, among other things that were still unknown to me. If Rena was somebody I should suspect. No, not that. I wanted to know the truth. Tonight, I was alone in this huge house. Even though I said I couldn't count on them, I had lost the security I felt I had just by my parents being around. It wasn't like this house was some sort of fortress or castle. If a malicious person decided to use brute force, they'd easily gain entry. There were no other residences close to the Maibara residence. No one would be able to hear anything, no matter how loud it was. I had never felt this much resentment towards my father's artistic temperament, and the fact that he had this house built in such a remote location as I did right now. I wondered if I would still be here by tomorrow morning. So I had to ask, right now, because I had no idea when the next chance would come. Oishi-san, I have something I wanted to ask about. Please don't keep anything from me. Sure. Ask away. Even though he was so far away on the other end of the line, this was the most reliable he had ever felt. I wanted to ask about Rena, about what happened at her previous school. Actually, regarding Rena's... I noticed a sound that had been going on for a while now. Since I was so focused on the call, I hadn't paid attention to it at first, but I finally realized it was the doorbell. The time was 7 o'clock. It was past the time the postman would be making a delivery, past any sensible time for a neighbor to be visiting. I considered just acting like nobody was home, but that wouldn't be good. That would ruin all the work I put in making it look like my parents were home. I need to answer the door. Hello? Maibara-san? Sorry, someone's be at the door. I'm going to see who it is. A guest? I see. My apologies. Should we begin this phone call now? That would be a problem. No, I'll be back in a second. Do you mind if I just leave the phone on? That's fine. I don't mind. I dropped the handset on my bed and dashed towards the door. I needed to make up a good excuse to get them to leave. I had a hunch it was the lady who called right before Oishi-san did. In which case it would be one of the neighbors who's friends with my mom. I'd just say Mom isn't feeling well and went to bed early. That would be the easiest option. It'd be hard for her to ask me to wake my mom up if she's not feeling well. The bell continued to ring at regular intervals. If someone didn't answer after you rang the bell so much, you'd normally give up and go home, wouldn't you? Without removing the chain, I opened the door slightly and peered out at the visitor. A chill ran down my spine. I knew it. Somewhere deep inside I had prepared for this moment. I had tried to escape by imagining it was the easiest person to deal with, one of my mom's friends. Good evening. Rena. There shouldn't be any reason for Rena to come over at this hour. The timing also made me feel uneasy, because it was just as I was about to ask Oishi-san about Rena. I wish I could have chalked this up to mere coincidence, but those unsettling words from Mion several days ago echoed back to me. There's nothing. This old man doesn't know. Are you alone, Rena? Yeah. It seems that Mion wasn't with her. That didn't change the situation at all. Why did you come here? Hey, Keiichi-kun, I'd like you to open the door so we can talk. Can I come inside? I wonder. It is true that speaking through a changed door wasn't the right way to talk to a classmate. But at my house, the chain has to be on at night. Don't worry about it. Then it can't be helped, I guess. Rena looked at the ground, sadly. But she kept smiling at least, and her effort to keep that smile up was quite pitiful. Even though she was tugging at my heartstrings, I didn't lower my guard. As long as I stayed like this, even if it made my heart ache, my life wasn't in danger. What I really feared, more than the possibility that hoodlums would assault me if I removed the chain, was trusting Rena enough to remove the chain, having my friendship betrayed. As long as the chain wasn't unlatched, even if it made my heart ache, I wouldn't have to deal with being betrayed by Rena. Since it didn't seem like it had removed the chain from her silent urging, she appeared to give up on trying to get into the entranceway. Have you eaten yet, Keiichi-kun? No, I haven't eaten. Since my mom wasn't there, dinner wouldn't be ready, no matter how long I waited. I laid down when I got home, was woken up by the phone, and didn't have a chance to eat since I used up all that time talking. I was going to have cup noodles in any case. I could just eat one whenever I wanted to. No, not yet. What about it? Hey, good. Look here. I brought a bunch of dishes. Rena held out a stack of boxes wrapped in a cloth. If I could use your kitchen, I can heat up the miso soup and other stuff. It's fine. You don't need to do that. But there's a lot of tofu and vegetables in it. Does Keiichi-kun not like that type of stuff? I wonder. There's no way I wouldn't like that. I love miso soup with lots of ingredients. White radish, carrots, burdock root and potatoes, dense and fibrous root vegetables. Yeah, that miso soup looks incredible. I also brought rice, so if you microwave, it'll be ready to eat in no time. Without a doubt, rice needs miso soup. Stuffing rice down your gullet, sipping miso soup in between ravenous bites. Oh, yes, how wonderful it is to be born Japanese. Also, I made some more pickles. I made sansai pickles this time. Before I had moved here to Hinamizawa, I scoffed at the mountain vegetables called sansai. But I was captivated by their charm the first time I tried them. Such a deep, yet light flavor. Those so-called supermarket vegetables taste rough and overpowering in comparison. If you had to describe them, then they were the vegetables for the uninitiated. To become an expert, such as myself, you first had to partake of sansai. It was common knowledge around here that Ryugu family's traditional pickles were wonderfully delicious. No matter what kind of pickles they They'd go so well with that fluffy white rice. And also, and also, but wait, there's more. So delicious, it seems so delicious. Farewell to my only healthy self who said he'd only make do with cup noodles. Ren appeared to be in good spirits, and she was offering such a delicious-sounding dinner. The stress evaporated from my gut, and hunger reared its voracious head. At the same time, my awareness of Rena suddenly dwindled. Rena did say she was alone. It shouldn't be a problem letting her inside. Though the possibility that it was laced with poison still hadn't been ruled out. At that moment, a cold chill ran down my spine once again. I couldn't understand why such a sensation had occurred just then. But the voice inside me was sounding the alarm. This happy Rena, speaking of this charming dinner, was dependent on one premise. That premise was that tonight, dinner hadn't been made at my house, meaning it was under the assumption that my mom, who should be making it, wasn't here. At any normal household, 7 o'clock would be around the middle of dinner time. If my mom were here, we'd be eating dinner around this time as well. The fact that she brought over all the makings of a meal at this time was inherently strange. Unless she knew. Rena, did she know that my parents weren't home? But there was also the chance that this was a bluff. I had turned on the lights and a bunch of other stuff to make it seem like my parents were here. There was the chance that Rena was unsure if my parents were home. But I had to wonder. The laundry, the garage, the evening paper. There were plenty of signs of them being hastily tidied up. It was hard to say that Rena didn't have a chance to determine if my parents were here or not. But there was no reason for me to confess that right now. I should try holding on to that fact as long as I could. First of all, the chain was still latched. As long as I didn't take it off, Rena wouldn't be able to do anything to me. Chain doors. Inescapable chain doors. I'm quite grateful, but dinner will be ready pretty soon. Huh? Is that so? Is that so? I know you went through all the effort and everything, but, well... Unable to think of a good way to refuse, my words trailed off weakly. But some of this can work as side dishes, I think. I'm sorry. We have more than enough already. My mom always makes quite a few sides. So... you have side dishes? With a smile that bordered on a cringe, I dodged her questions apologetically. But the feeling I tried to ignore began creeping up my back again. I spoke as if my mom was setting down dinner right now, but it didn't mesh well with what Rena was saying. Rena was talking as if she was aware of some obvious fact, and that I was aware of it as well. So, Keiichi-kun can cook. What did you make? I wonder. No, it's not that I... Rena had assumed out of nowhere that I had made the dishes. No, not so much that I'd made them, but rather that my mom hadn't. Did you really make them? The side dishes? Did you, Keiichi-kun? It wasn't me who made them. My mom did. She's making them. Right now. So you see, I'm sorry, but I can't eat what you brought. Rena fell silent at that moment. At that moment, I felt that the light had suddenly disappeared from her eyes. How about I try guessing what Keiichi-kun's dinner will be? It doesn't matter what I'm going to eat. Let's see. The conversation might appear natural at first glance, but Rena was firmly in control. It felt like I was being interrogated. Your dinner. I wonder, is it something that can be made with just hot water? Now, stop with the insults. I can't believe you belittled my mom's extravagant dinner like that. Ticket sold out, full capacity already. Is that amazing? I tried my best to put on a strong front, but I couldn't grit my teeth quite right. So instead, I looked like someone who was borderline hysterical. But Rena showed no reaction whatsoever, even to that silliness. Keiichi-kun, did your mother really leave you dinner? No, she didn't leave me dinner. She's making it right now. It's almost time for dinner. Rena had taken the assertion of mine that my mother was home and making dinner right now, and was completely ignoring it. I could tell that the more I panicked, the colder Rena became. Hey, Keiichi-kun. At that moment, an uncontrollable chill crept in the gap in the doorway. Is your mom home? I wonder. I couldn't keep up this charade anymore. Rena, she knew full well that my parents weren't home, but I'd come too far to admit that now. Anyway, my parents were here, and we'd be having dinner soon. That was the situation I had concocted. So I answered. I told her she was here. She's here? Of course. I could feel the humidity drying out from the surrounding air. Brenna's eyes were becoming even more frigid, piercing me with their gelid glare. Why? Huh? What do you mean? I tried acting casual, but that facade was torn off me the instant I looked into Rena's eyes. That look had informed me of Rena's response faster than she could open her mouth. Why have you been lying to me? I wonder. I'm not lying. It's a lie, isn't it? It's not a lie. Lies. Rena's outburst sent a jolt surrounding through my body. Rena and I were still separated by what few inches that slightly ajar, but still chained door could afford. How are y'all, huh? Bit creeped out at the moment. But despite that, I was still being cornered. My house, which I considered a safe haven until now, had become more like a dark alleyway where no one could save me. Shall I guess your dinner, Keiichi-kun? Let's see. I knew now that Rena had already known that my parents would not be here tonight. But it was still so strange that it had come to this. Even if she somehow knew that my parents weren't home, there was no way she would be able to guess what I'd be eating tonight. But Rena said she'd guess. How could she guess it? How could she know it was instant? Cup noodles. That's right, isn't it? That I was going to eat? Wait, the cooking repertoire of a man who can't do housework is probably nothing but cup noodles after all. Looking at this statistically, it was the most probable answer. That didn't mean she was guessing. I don't think you'll be full with just noodles. I think having rice and stuff will definitely hit the spot. Calm down, Keiichi Maebara. This was just coincidence. Rena was just reading certain tales of mine. So the fact that she was inferring that I was thinking alarmed me. But it wasn't as if she actually was reading my mind. If it was being read, then she was a demon. No, not a demon. Things like that, they couldn't possibly exist. Do you like them? Do you mean noodles? No. Rena indicated that the point my answer was addressing was wrong. Her rebuttal was so short that I momentarily didn't understand the words Rena had spoken. Sorry, Rena. What did you just say right now? About what? Just now. You asked me if there was something that I liked, didn't you? It wasn't long before I regretted how carelessly I pushed forward with that question. It was such a simple answer. That was why I wasn't able to comprehend it. Pork bone and ginger flavor. I wonder how I appeared in the moment. My mind went completely blank till the moment I was able to recover. As my field of view began to distort, slowly swirling in a counterclockwise direction, I lost all sense of balance. Why do you know that? I didn't even deny that. This was the type of frenzied state I was in. How could Rena know even this? Not even caring, as I mashed my head against the door, I fixated my gaze on Rena. But she didn't even flinch when she saw me do that. I certainly did buy them. I bought a bunch at once. I bought a whole case. How could you know that? Why, I wonder. Quite strange, isn't it? Isn't it? How could you dodge the question at a time like this? The chain and the door suddenly were no longer protecting me. How do you know? Why do you know? Answer me! You bought them at 7th Mart, didn't you? A shiver ran up my spine. Tried covering it up with an angry facade. Like I said, why do you know that? I was behind you, following you the whole time. What are you saying? I couldn't understand why she was saying she'd been following me all this time. That's because Rena was right behind Keiichi-kun's back the whole time. Like that night. That night I was absorbed in my phone conversation with the Wushi-san. I didn't even sense her being there. Standing behind the door. Behind me. Standing there. Just like that. And Keiichi was picking up the noodles. I was watching the entire time. You picked out so many different flavors, didn't you? Then your mom got angry. If you're going to pick the expensive ones, you just pick one type, she said. Then Keiichi-kun picked out the big box of pork bone and ginger flavor that he loved so much, didn't he? I like it too. Pork bone noodles. But I could never eat a whole big bowl myself. My brain was paralyzed, dulling my senses. Might have been a defense mechanism to diminish the fear I was feeling to non-traumatizing levels. With the fear being diminished, the fog enveloping my mind was cleared away. Then, I could understand what Rena was saying and started to put meaning behind her words. Even so, my fear hadn't subsided completely. It was like I was standing at the edge of the cliff, eyes closed so I didn't have to look down. It didn't actually solve any of the basic problems. I slowly took a step backwards, and as I withdrew, Rena advanced. So, Keiichi-kun, can you open this? We can eat dinner together. I'm sure it's going to be delicious. So, okay? Rena's pale, slender fingers squirmed through the crack in the door one at a time, as if they had a mind of their own, rattling the chain. If she had unlatched the chain from the door, a feeling of terror would have just exploded within me. But Rena didn't do that. She was simply imploring me to remove the chain. I tried my hardest to light the fuse of the powder cake in my heart, trying again and again. Clatter, clatter. But it doesn't light. It doesn't light. Open up, Keiichi-kun. Please go away. I beg you. Please go away. How can you say something so mean? I wonder. I wonder. Please go away. Go away. Go away! The powder keg inside me finally went off. No smoldering. It just exploded. I tackled the door. The force of the door had knocked Rena momentarily off balance. I couldn't hesitate here. I grabbed onto the doorknob with both hands, planted my feet firmly and pulled with all my might. But that slamming sound I so desired didn't happen. I could feel a tiny, disturbing bit of resistance keeping the door from closing. And the source of that was Rena's fingers. Each of those fingers wriggling, squirming around like the tendrils of a carnivorous plant through the cracks in the doorway. It hurts. It hurts, Keiichi-kun. It hurts. It wasn't a harsh shriek, but more of a yelp she was trying to keep back. Go away. Go away. Go away. I kept on pulling on the door with all my might. I didn't even realize that if I didn't loosen my pull on the door, at least momentarily, Rena wouldn't be able to pull her fingers out, and that was why the door wasn't closing. It really hurts, Keiichi-kun. I'm sorry if I was messing around too much. I didn't care one bit for her apology. No matter how much she apologized, it didn't change any of what she had done up until now. It didn't change anything. It hurts. It hurts. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go away. Go away. Go away! Rena couldn't leave even if she wanted to because I'd trapped her fingers. Rena's white fingers had gone deep red and were no longer even squirming. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go away. Go away. Go away. Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Rena's apologies were occasionally twisted with pain, but like a broken record, she was intent on repeating it over and over. Go away. Go away. Go away. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. I pulled on the door even harder. Finally, Rena's fingers were somehow able to slip out from their imprisonment in the doorway. The moment that happened, the door closed soundly, and I could hear the thud of Rena falling on her butt on the other side. I locked the door immediately. I made a loud clunk, voicing my rejection to Rena. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Keiichi-kun, I'm sorry. Open up, Keiichi-kun. Rena leaned against the door, apologizing profusely and nothing else. After confirming that I was sufficiently sealed off from her, I trudged away from the entryway. On the other side, I could still hear Rena echoing her apology. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Those pitiful words. They would be forever seeking my forgiveness. I didn't feel bad about this at all. But that wasn't out of any sort of malice. I felt a hazy sense of relief that I was able to escape from Rena. Before, Mion had threatened me at this doorway, saying there was nothing she didn't know. And just now, at the same place, Rena told me the same thing. My feeble attempts to disguise the fact that my parents weren't home had served no purpose from the start. I should have just pretended to be out, and not even opened the door. My meager plans hadn't helped at all. In Hinamizawa, it was impossible to outwit them. Even though I was on the other side of the door, I wanted to get as far away from Rena as possible. 1 step, 2 steps. With each one, her sniveling apologies became more distant. I sprinted up the stairs and dove into my room. As you would expect, I was finally no longer able to hear Rena repeating her endless apology. Diving into my bed, I was startled by the hard lump I felt. There was something in my bed? It was the receiver. I finally remembered. I was in the middle of a call with Oishi-san. Looking at the clock, apparently not much time had passed since I went downstairs. Could it be that my clock had run out of batteries? I talked with Rena for so long. How did almost no time pass? But the hand on the clock was ticking forward 1 second, every second, as usual. As I put the still warm receiver to my ear, time, which felt frozen, began moving once again. Hello? Oishi-san? Sorry to keep you waiting. No, not at all. I didn't wait that long. Sure as hell felt like it. It became apparent that the amount of time that had passed between myself and Oishi-san was different. Over the phone, I could hear an energetic voice from a sports program or something. It drove home just how far away Oishi-san really was. Rena came just now. Did she come to play? I wasn't confident that I could coherently explain the situation to Oishi-san. But I didn't need to right now. Right now, I needed to know about Rena. Sorry for the delayed response, but so rocky yesterday, maybe rocky today. Well, you just need the eye of the tire to fix that. Just go on a boxing montage or something. It'll be right as rain. World champ no time. But yeah. So far today's started out not quite on the right step. Bit of Rena being very, very odd. Or technically normal, depending on which way you look at it. I don't know. Anyway, here we go. I needed to know about Rena. That's right. I was planning to ask Oishi-san more about Rena, but Rena's little visit had interrupted the conversation. What was true and what was false, I couldn't tell. The one thing I knew was the single grim reality that Rena was suspicious. I might be able to figure something out if I asked Oishi-san about her. Up until now, I'd regretted it whenever I forced myself to ask about things that I was better off not knowing. But looking at it that way, you could say I'd hit rock bottom. Not quite, but you're getting there. There's no possible way I could feel any more regret than I did right now. Probably could. I'd imagine that statement is kind of false, but we'll see. No, rather, I wanted to know if there's anything beyond this I would regret more. Forget about tomorrow. It wasn't out of the realm of possibility for something to happen tonight. I wanted to know everything I could. I was absolutely not going to die like this. Not without knowing anything. I definitely won't. Regarding Rena Ryugu-san? I did a bit of digging. Yeah, well, it wasn't much. I understood that Oishi-san was talking in circles. A bit means I dug so deep it'd be hard to discuss with you since you're her friend. I want to know everything from your research. I don't think you'll be very interested in what I have to say, though. Oishi-san. I spoke as calmly as possible to Oishi-san, who was continuing to avoid the issue. And then I said it. I think Rena Ryugu is suspicious. Even if the past incidents were from the Oishiro-sama's curse, Rena Ryugu is involved. Do you have some sort of proof that makes you believe Rena-san is suspicious? Just a hunch. The manner in which Oishi-san spoke became very firm. Do you have some sort of proof? That was him talking as a detective. I only have circumstantial evidence. I see. I could tell even over the phone how disappointed Oishi-san was. Pulling on the fishing line when they felt a bite, only reeling the bait. Disappointed, but ready to cast the line once more. That's how it seemed. Oishi-san, you can't do anything without physical proof, can you? What I meant was, you can't come and save me without proof. I stuck that barb in there. As Oishi-san loved roundabout ways of saying things, he understood me just fine. It's fine, Maibara-san. I'll protect you. That was not the least bit reassuring. Oishi-san was just using me to continue his investigation. I was just going to get killed, and my corpse would be an important piece of evidence. That was all I was to him. Whether I'm alive or dead may be of no concern to your investigation, but it's all over for me when I die. Oishi was silent on the other end of the line. That may have been too blunt, but I didn't care. All I needed to relay to Oishi-san was that I was currently in a very dangerous position. So please, tell me. Tell me about Rena. Satoshi transferred out. Not too far in the future, I'll probably also do what Rena called transferring out as well. But you won't be able to find my corpse. You haven't even been able to find Satoshi's body yet. Alright, Maibara-san, please calm down. I was already suppressing my agitation, even without Oishi-san having to tell me. It wouldn't solve anything if I continued to scream about my mistrust in the police. It would seem that I could only depend on myself and the bat Satoshi left behind to protect myself. Then I at least wanted to know about what happened before Rena transferred schools. You're aware this won't be very interesting, right? Oishi-san, realizing my resolve couldn't be swayed, finally caved. Right now, to me, there's nothing that I find uninteresting. Please. There are a few things I need you to agree to. Okay, Please keep this confidential. Also, part of this may be speculation. Not all of it may be true. Are you still interested? It might not be true? I don't understand what you mean. There isn't one main investigation for the mysterious chain of deaths in Hinamizawa. Each one is treated as its own individual case. Thus, Rena Ryugu has never been linked to any of the investigations. Basically, you see, this isn't an investigation of Rena done by the police, and it's a personal inquiry, is what you're telling me? This will make things a lot quicker since you understand. All of it is from either phone calls or meetings and interviews, so they aren't corroborated. I'm asking you to take this all with a grain of salt, is what I mean. Do we have an agreement? All of it is just from what you heard? Yes, my apologies. It's all my personal investigation, you see. That thing. Before, you said that Rena's chart. You saw Rena's chart, didn't you? I'm sure I heard you say that. Oishi-san paused for a moment on the other end of the line. I told you that too? Please pretend you didn't hear anything about that. I didn't care about Oishi-san having certain obligations and responsibilities. I also didn't care if there was no proof. Even if they were just rumors, there's no smoke without fire after all. Please tell me, Oishi-san. Understood. Oishi-san finally opened those tight lips of his. It seemed that Rena lived in Hinamizawa a long time ago. She had moved to Ibaraki Prefecture just before starting elementary school. Then, following that, right after transferring, the unfortunate incident with the breaking of the school windows happened. Then Rena confided to the doctor. It was Oyashiro-sama. This was everything I knew. There isn't much difference between what I know and what you know, Mayabara-san. Then what part did you investigate further? I didn't need to ask. It was the incident right before she transferred back to Hinamizawa. The incident Rena was responsible for, and what she divulged to the doctor afterwards, correct? Yes. After you learned about that, you started suspecting Rena and the others, didn't you? Yes, I did suspect them. So, they're the ones after all? No, that's not what I meant by suspect them. Oishi-san was the type of person to say things with confidence, but these particular words were less than reassuring. Then, who did you suspect? That it was Oyashiro-sama. Huh? That Oyashiro-sama's curse really exists. Yeah, right, well... Oishi-san's laugh was quite dry. Certainly not the kind that would make you want to join in. Oishi-san resumed the conversation about the dubious circumstances behind Satoshi's disappearance. The course of events leading him to delve into Rena's past. Just then, there was thunder in the distance, and heavy rain started pouring down. It came without warning, a downpour fiercely beating the ground. I had left the window in my room open a crack to let the heat out. The violent wind danced in my room, making the curtains flap wildly. What is it? Nothing. It suddenly started raining heavily. Sorry. Please continue. I got up while still on the phone and crashed the window. I said at the beginning it was an incident, but because neither the school nor the victims filed charges, the police were never involved. You see, those involved were very reluctant to talk, regardless of there being a victim who had one eye beaten so badly that it had permanent damage. It could have been the school, or possibly some individual who made arrangements to keep this from going public. Also, the psychologist was very strict about their professional ethics. Hello? Maebara-san? Can you hear me? There was the figure of a person standing by the light near the mailbox this whole time. Even in this torrential rain, they didn't have an umbrella. They were, unquestionably, drenched from head to toe. In this shower, which more resembled a waterfall, droplets of water dripped down from her hair. Just standing there, arms dangling at her side. In one hand was a stack of boxes wrapped in cloth. Her eyes focused on my room, focused on me as I was about to close the window. Her mouth was methodically repeating a chewing motion. It was as if she had something hard to chew in her mouth, with her cheeks puffing out. What could she be eating over there? How could it be that at this time I was more enthralled by Rena instead of the shocking developments being brought to light by Oishi-san? If it hadn't started raining, I wouldn't have gone to the window. Then I wouldn't have noticed Rena, nor would I have noticed that. Rena's mouth was moving in the same pattern. She wasn't eating something. She was repeating something. What was it? Was she repeating to me? What was she saying? And why was I right up against the window, fixated on her? Hello, Maebara-san. Can you hear me? Hello. I'm sorry. Huh? Maebara-san? I'm sorry. 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 Hello? Maebara-san? What's the matter? Even in this torrential downpour, Rena was still apologizing. The other self inside me drew the curtain hastily with my right hand, blocking my view of the outside. But even doing that, Rena's relentless apology still reached my ears. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If I forgive you for this, will you forgive me for that? Please stop. Please stop. Please stop. Please stop. I'm sorry. 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 Damn it. Why should I have to forgive her? I'm the one who wants to be forgiven. What part of me can't you forgive? I won't be killed. If you won't forgive me, then I won't forgive you either. I won't forgive. 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 I won't forgive. Maebara-san? If you can hear me, then please respond. Hello? Alright. Higurashi, When They Cry. Welcome to Hinamizawa. Alrighty then. Rain of Apologies. Alright, so that was an eventful happening. And technically at the same time uneventful. I get the feeling there's more to that than I was led on. At the 7th mark. That'll be an interesting one to see, but let's go with a split personality. Let's do it in order. I see it in movies quite often, but what is it exactly? Multiple personalities are thought to be escapism. Multiple personality disorder is a form of escape? Yeah. Correct. Yes, I did. I did look at them. I'm really bad at responding, aren't I? I was not expecting that level of detail, to be quite honest. But it is what it is. Like, you need all the individual parts to make the individual thing. I was expecting some simplification, as in like a single piece instead of 12 to make it. But yeah, that was quite detailed. If you still got the whole thing, I'd be interested in looking at it, looking into more detail on it. And I did see the braces you put up on the arms, whatnot, because yeah, those would kind of have to be there of some sort, or a rigid internal frame. But yes, I did see your pictures. They're pretty cool. Oh yeah. It's a escape. Yay. Well, it can be. It's no problem. The split personality can be an escape. You just physically, legitimately can't handle it. So you have somebody else handle it for you. But you don't have somebody else to handle it for you. So you create somebody else to handle it for you. And that is one function of a split personality. It's not me getting hurt, it's them. It's not me assaulting them, it's them. And you have that split personality take the brunt of it for you. It can be a form of escape, and I can legitimately see that happening. But specifically why here is the question, I guess. Simplest best I can have made instruction. Well, maybe, but it's currently the pictures you sent were just a bunch of numbers. Yeah, like all the way up to like 130 or something. 140. 150. Got them right here. A lot of little numbers. But yeah. Well, you were making one example is like the drum barrel on the Sentry have a cylinder with a top that's painted over with just one texture. So instead of having the barrel underneath and a cap and the screw on top, you just have one piece instead of 5. Or the barrel would be a single cylinder, stuff like that. I think low resolution, something or other. Anyway. Correct. The exact mechanism is not fully understood, but it's believed to be a type of defense for the brain to retain mental stability. Like what I just said. I know those numbers. Hypothetically, poor people imagining themselves as wealthy is a form of escapism, is it not? Is this also a form of multiple personality disorder? No, that's themselves seeing it as it. On the pieces. Fair enough. I wouldn't go that far, but broadly speaking, would confer that it's something that occurs in us all. Sort of? Does a split personality occur when one cannot tell which is reality, which is the escape? It's difficult to say. There are some who agree with that, and some who disagree. There is no consensus. Then, is the occurrence of multiple personalities still an unknown phenomenon? Something not fully comprehended in the psychiatric field? There's a hell of a lot not known in the psychiatric field. Unfortunately, that is the current state of things. We can only put our hope in future research. But it's sort of cool having a split personality. What kind of people get split personalities? Recent studies find that those who develop it, rather, those who are more susceptible to developing it, may be genetically predisposed or may have had abnormal mental development. Some say that childhood abuses increase the chances. Speaking of which, Person A has here experienced abuse as a child, didn't he? How sad. Person A has 7 different personalities. Let's watch a video of them. You shouldn't be doing that as happy. Right after these commercials. that was horrible. That's just horrible. But yeah, my understanding of split personalities is you physically cannot handle the stress, the emotion, the strain of whatever it is. Psychological trauma is generally it. I think I've heard of stories, or maybe probably in fiction or some such, but younger kids with very abusive family matters. And it's like somebody, I can't handle this anymore. Somebody else take it for me. And they finally just literally break down. And it's their sister that does it. I have a sister. And she's my friend. And she's the one that takes care of the bad things for me. I don't have to deal with it. It's my friend who takes care of it. And then they separate that way. And it's a very dark way and very unhealthy way of handling things, but if it legitimately keeps you sane, it's technically a functional option. It's not pretty. But yeah, so I kind of run in with that. That sounds like a story, but I'm not going to pry if you don't want to. Yeah, but like they were saying in the other one, like, so a homeless person envisioning himself as a rich man, it's not quite the same. That's a hope, a desire. That's a daydream. I want to be cool if I was like rich or whatever. That's not a split personality. That's just a dream. But a homeless person walking around acting like they are a rich person, demanding attention for whatever, that's also not a split personality. That's a separation from reality. They aren't dealing with things. They're walking on like this train of thought when reality is actually here, and so they're just off in their own little world, as opposed to split personality being staying in the same world, but just refusing to look at it from your own perspective and swapping back, I think. Fair enough. That's one of the reasons why I don't ask viewers for personal details, because I know they're personal details, and I'm the one on stream, not you guys. But yeah, if you feel like sharing, feel free. But yeah, stories are stories, I guess. But yeah. Anyway, this one is called 7th Mart. The 7th Mart was a bargain supermarket with food and alcohol. The only necessities for life, apparently. I flopped the colorful collection of cup noodle bowls into the cart, muttering in irritation at being rushed by my parents. As expected, Mom gave a disbelieving look and asked why I had to get so many flavors. Cup noodles have gotten so elaborate recently. There are a bunch of different types. I'll try each of them at least once. Oh. I do have actually a weird flavor of instant noodles. I picked up like a whole case of them a while back. Not the cup version, but the packet version. I had like 50 of them, some ridiculous number. One entire box that they come in. They were selling it for like really dirt cheap on sale, whatever. The flavor was lime shrimp flavor, which was very bizarre. And an odd combination I had never heard of before, which is probably why it didn't sell. It's not bad, but it's different, and I'm currently the only one who eats it. So I'm still working my way through it. But yeah, it's not bad. It's different. It's not disgusting or anything. It's just different. That's really all I can say about it. It's not really good or really bad. It's just another flavor to put on instant noodles. But yeah. Apparently in Japan, though, they have like entire like genres of shit for the noodles. Well, here in America, we mostly have beef, shrimp, and something else, I think. Veggie flavor or something. Cup noodles have gotten so elaborate recently, and there are a bunch of different types. I want to try each of them at least once. Interesting goal. Nice one. I know it was pretty selfish of me, but I thought I'd at least give it a try. And it's good to try different things. In general. Looking displeased at the sheer amount and the number of different varieties, Dad told me to go get a multi-pack instead of individual ones. Well, I had a feeling it'd end up like this. Now that Dad had thrown his hat into the ring, I'd have to compromise. Then I'd only get to eat one kind. I'd get bored with it. I was resisting as a formality. I had already given up inside and wasn't sure which case of noodles to get. Mom and Dad were already waiting in line, calling for me as I struggled with a decision. Decisions. The line is short and there isn't much time. Left with no choice, I quickly searched the cases of noodles for what I want. When in trouble, that's it. Pork bone and ginger. Extra large. If I let Mom pick, she'd err on the side of safety and get soy sauce or salt flavored. So when I plonked a large box of pork bone flavor in the shopping cart, Mom looked back at me with an expression as if to say, "These ones?" Sure, this was my last compromise, began explaining the choice. Pork bone is good. I get a large serving, but the flavor isn't too strong. I remembered insisting that the noodles I picked were the right kind. In this frozen memory in time, this encapsulated world, I didn't have the power to look around my surroundings. So, I did what I could and reached out with my hearing and vision, sharpening my senses to find the presence I overlooked. No matter how much I searched through my field of vision, I couldn't see Rena. I rewound the situation, searching. But of course, I couldn't find her. Then, was she spying at me from my blind spot? I go through the sound and presences again, looking. I could sense the other customers. They were all mixed about, moving as they please. There was nobody looking over this way, and no one trying to get behind me. Not here. Couldn't be here. Probably wasn't here. I would definitely notice if someone was right behind me, even when I wasn't on my guard. I smiled wryly at the thought of using a vague word like probably, right before contradicting it with definitely. And then I paused my mental replay as a chill ran down my spine. There was definitely a presence like a shadow behind me. That was a terror unlike any other. If a presence really had manifested behind me, I would definitely have turned around to check for it. But the world had moved on, and there was no way for me to turn around. While carrying that frightening shadow on my back, I was gleefully running around the store searching for a case of noodles. Running through the instant noodle section, bad-mouthing my mom. But there was that presence constantly at my back, sticking to me like a shadow. No way to see what it was. Realizing it now after the fact was horrifying and repulsive. In that moment of time, I was running around gleefully, carrying that cardboard box. Tip-tap. But listening to that moment again, I could hear footsteps other than mine going pit-pat with every step. Tip-tap, 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 pit-pat, pit-pat, pit-pat. Tip-tap, tip-tap, pit-pat, pit-pat. Tip-tap, tip-tap, pit-pat, pit-pat. While I was running, the sound of those barefoot footsteps going pit-pat were right behind me running around gleefully in that closed-off moment in time. But I didn't hear it. No, I heard it. That's why I remember it. I didn't think I heard anything. That's why I didn't turn around. That is why I didn't turn around. In that moment, the pit-pat of those footsteps were following me the entire time. I couldn't run faster and escape. I couldn't run any faster than I had ran at that time. I couldn't turn around. I hadn't turned around before. Not once. Then I returned to my parents and started talking. The shadow-like presence was right at my back. Since I didn't move, the shadow didn't move. That is why it made no sound. That was all. At that time, I hadn't taken a single step while talking with my parents. I was just standing there. This was undeniable. And yet, I heard it. A pit-pat. That shouldn't be. If I took 3 steps, it followed 3 steps. Wasn't that the rule? There was no sound other than that. At that time, the entire world had gone dark. A sudden darkness. It was the end of my reflective journey. I was tired. I wanted to end it. Someone turned on the light. Except my body couldn't move. As if I was sewn into that moment in time. Pit-pat. My past self's hair stood on end. The impossible? Oh, that's just breaking the rules. I haven't moved, so you shouldn't be moving either. I couldn't move, so you shouldn't be able to move either. Follow the rules. Pit-pat. Yet that sound echoed in the darkness once again. The hair on the back of my neck pricked up on end. It was so close that it was hard to tell whether it was touching the hair or not. Why couldn't I move? Like how the presence was moving behind me. I quickly realized I could move. It's just that I was scared and didn't want to. But now was the only time I could turn around. It was something unforgivable in this moment in time. But I needed to turn around immediately. As if my entire being was trying to force me to stop. It began to administer pain like a needle being stuck into my every pore. I'll turn around. I'll turn around. I'm not scared at all. I'll turn around. I'll turn around. I'm not scared at all. A scream I was unable to vocalize. I turned around. At first, I couldn't understand the meaning of it. What? What is this? Just as a person's mouth might bite into an apple, slurp the juices, and finally discover that it was an apple. My mind began to process the scene before my eyes by eating the apple. Munch, munch, chew, chew. Slurp the juices and discover the apple. Meaning, what was in front of me was couple problems with that. One, memories can be altered. You can remember things differently than you remember. So it's not an infallible source. Especially when you're trying to go over and find things that you didn't remember in the first place. First iffy bit. But I'm thinking Brenda might not have actually been there, but the village was there, saw, and reported things. Or maybe Mion or somebody else was there, and then told Rena. Which could create the impossibility of it all. Alright, I think we got enough for one more scene. So, because it would be very strange whenever they talk about that. I sometimes think of this weird analogy, but if like Keiichi was walking in the market and Rena was in his blind spot all the time, and he's running down, picking up a box, turning around, walking away, she would have to stick to him like glue the whole time, which would be very, very obvious and weird for everybody except Keiichi. But I'm reminded of this stupid thing on the internet, this absolutely retarded mindset and theory. And it's an overhead pattern, okay? With like a little smiley face of you in the center and your field of vision over here. Well, what if outside of our field of vision, like behind me this way, what we can't see, is actually an infinite number of angry Hitlers that are just incredibly silent? You can't see, you can't turn around and look because they move with you. There's no way to know for sure or not. And that stupid image popped in my head with Rena, and like an infinite amount of Renas behind you, and like you can't see, you can't tell, but they're just like all simultaneously moving behind you, and it's a very silly picture, very impractical and not logical in the least, but I've seen it. It's a stupid little meme I saw at one point. I like literally only saw like once or twice, but it's stuck in my head for some stupid reason. But yeah, it's like picturing Rana behind Keiichi and following him along is not unheard of, especially when he was walking home alone with the bat and he called her out. I could see that happening. Doing that in the store with other people, especially his parents, iffy. Iffy. So, I'm not sold on the idea that she was there. Exactly. But I can't quite pinpoint how. Anyway. I guess I'd be lying if I said I didn't get any sleep. I tried to stay awake all night, but there were definitely gaps in my memory. I guess I kept nodding off and jerking awake in a panic all night. I spent all night hugging the metal bat and sat atop on the futon I used to barricade my door. Waiting, watching just in case someone tried to break in through my window. If I left this spot, someone would break through the door, sending the futon flying and attacking me. But if I stopped watching the window, someone would break through the glass and attack me. I tried telling myself I was just being paranoid, but I couldn't sleep. The thought of being so vulnerable scared the living daylights out of me. If sleep meant taking that risk, I didn't need it. It was so much better to just stay awake. At some point during that endless cycle of nodding off and jerking awake, light began to shine outside. But that was it. It wasn't so much the morning as it was just the sun simply having risen. I snuck a peek out through the curtains. Rena was gone. I couldn't see her anymore, no matter how hard I looked. Finally, I could breathe a deep sigh of relief. The night was finally over. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't tired, but it didn't feel like sleeping at the moment. I still had time, but I needed to make my own breakfast, so I'd better get started soon. Skipping school was also an option. With my mom gone, it would be easy to play hooky. Honestly, I debated it. The risk involved in leaving my house was incalculable, so staying holed up in here was probably my safest option. But staying here wouldn't solve anything. Oishi-san wouldn't help me without cold, hard evidence. Neither he, nor my parents. So unless I found some sort of proof, these relentless nights would never end. I stretched my body, tilted my head back, closed my eyes just like I did every morning. I regulated my breathing. That actually helps more than you realize if you ever do it. And regained my senses. Calm down, Keiichi Barbara. Let's go to school. Let's wait until they set their trap for me. Probably already set. But that didn't mean I was just going to twiddle my thumbs. I needed to avoid that trap and secure irrefutable evidence. Take note of the plates of any car that drives by. If I see someone suspicious, check their clothes and face. I wasn't just protecting myself. I was preparing myself to turn their attack against them and retaliate. The tension was similar to when two samurai were both aiming to slay each other with a single motion as they drew their katanas. I was not at a disadvantage. I would have a chance to retaliate. I finally felt a bit of courage growing in my chest. Alright, let's go to school. I tightened my grip on Satoshi's bat. He was the only partner I could count on. Satoshi, please lend me your strength, and entrust your dying regrets to me, since you were probably murdered. I'll make sure I dispel them. With renewed resolve, I checked the clock. It was still early. Of course, I was going to school by myself today. If I didn't want to run into Rena or Mion, I needed to leave now. The shattered fragments of the cupboard were still strewn all over the entryway. Right. I meant to clean that up last night, but never got around to it with a phone call and everything. My parents came back and saw this while I was at school. I would never hear the end of it. Still, I'd be wasting time if I cleaned it up right now, considering what would happen if I ran into Rena or Mion. It wouldn't be too late to clean it up after I got back home. Making extra certain that the doors were locked, I left the house. My uniform was still covered in mud from yesterday, so I left it in the washer. Today I was going to school in a tracksuit. By wearing a different outfit this morning, my mind was forced to accept that today was different from yesterday. I had a hunch. Today might be the day I get killed. Keep your guard up, Keiichi Maebara. The only one who gets to decide if today is my last is me. Spent the morning practicing my swing like it was my natural routine. After a while, Rena arrived at school. Our eyes met, but we said nothing. Rena said nothing about last night, as if it never happened. But I could see that those events were real by the wounds carved into her fingers. I just heard her telling Satoko and the others that the bandages were from hurting herself in the kitchen. Though it wasn't like it bothered me. The details that Oishi-san shared about Rena's incident before her transfer played vividly in my mind. Now that I knew about it, I couldn't even dream of Rena as a cute, ideal girl. Kei-chan, I see you're still aiming for the nationals. It was Mion. I had already sensed her approach, so I wasn't that surprised. Oh, Mion. You understand, then leave me alone. I'm busy practicing. I gave her a curt reply without my usual jokes. Then I gave the bat an even larger swing, tacitly keeping Mion from getting any closer. Hey, Kei-chan, take it easy. I think Mion got the message, but she still urged me to give it a rest. Homeroom's not that far off, is it? Just let me finish practicing. Swung the bat even harder as a sign of my refusal. Kei-chan, when did you get into baseball? Just recently. Recently? You mean yesterday? Don't ask if you already know. Oh dear. That's a very unsportsmanlike reply. You're distracting me. Go away. I ignored Mion and kept swinging. Normally she'd get mad or bored and leave if someone gave her the cold shoulder like this. But Mion just stood there, waiting patiently for me to stop swinging. I didn't sense any hostility. But we were at school, in plain view. I doubt she'd suddenly attack me here. Or was that too naive? Still, I was starting to get tired. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad to take a break and hear her out. You need me for something, right? What is it? Sweat poured from me as I stopped swinging. I noticed my shoulders were heaving as I breathed. I cursed my lack of exercise. This is what we're training for. At this rate, I might not be able to move as needed when the time came. I should probably keep practicing my swings to build stamina, in addition to the excuse for carrying the bat around with me. Well, it's nothing important. If you're tired, I can ask again later. Now is fine. I'm only dealing with you right now because I judge the situation to be safe. Talking to you alone and away from others, that's out of the question. Well, Mion was uncharacteristically trying to choose her words. But unlike Uechi-san, it didn't look like she was going to talk about something I'd rather not hear. Mion was puzzled, trying to find the right thing to say. But then she gave a hearty laugh to break herself out of that mire. This old man's just no good at this stuff. Having a poor vocabulary hurts. What's this all of a sudden? You have something to say, just say it. Stop it. Stop that swinging. She cut straight to the point. Her request was so frank, I didn't understand it for a moment. I had already stopped swinging to listen to her, hadn't I? I just stopped, didn't I? That's not what I meant. I want today to be the last day you swing that bat. I'm sorry. It took me some time to understand what she was asking for. What's wrong with swinging a bat? Why? It's none of your business, is it? I'm not bothering anyone, am I? You are. Mion said it flat out. This didn't make any sense, and that was really irritating. When did I bother anybody? Mion was at a loss for words, but she finally made up her mind and spoke, though she stuttered as she said it. Because, Kei-chan, that's someone else's bat. You shouldn't borrow it without permission. It was left behind by a student who transferred, right? I'm just borrowing it until he comes back for it. Yeah. He transferred. Mion grew uncharacteristically flustered. That made it all too clear that his transfer was a lie. That's strange, isn't it? For the older brother to transfer by himself, while his little sister stayed behind? Mion couldn't hide her reaction as my words shook her up. Kei-chan, you knew? Satoshi Hojo. Satoko's older brother, right? The one demoned away last year. Unable to respond to that, Mion fell silent. Rena asked the same thing. Why did you start swinging that bat? She told me Satoshi did the same thing, practicing his swings, right before he went missing. So, is this some kind of omen for Yoshiro-sama's curse? Mion panicked and looked around. Please, Kei-chan, don't mention Yoshiro-sama so recklessly. I don't believe in him, but the others very much do. Rena, especially. Dangerously so? Anyway, you're scaring everyone. If you're just fooling around, then stop it. You have to stop acting like Satoshi. I was the one who was scared. Who do I have to thank for taking up this bat in the first place? But it still unsettled me knowing that my actions were overlapping with Satoshi's. It would be one thing if someone suggested it, but I thought I was making my own decisions. I'll say this now. I don't know anything about Satoshi. After all, you didn't tell me anything about him. We didn't mean to hide it. You were hiding the incidents that happen every year, weren't you? That's because we didn't want to, You didn't want to scare me? Is that your reason for leaving me out? No, we didn't mean to... Mion, I asked you directly if something happened at the dam, didn't I? And you told me nothing happened. And someone was dismembered and murdered. You lied to me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to lie to you. Friends don't hide things from each other, right? Isn't that right? Then you all aren't my friends. Kei-chan, we... Mion looked helpless and flustered. Was I imagining the tears in her eyes? I never could have imagined Mion acting like this. Oh, by the way, those get-well mochi you brought the other day? They were good. I thought I was going to bleed. Who did it? You? Or Rena? Me. She admitted it so easily. I couldn't help but be surprised at how easy that was. You could have killed me. How could you do that to a friend? But it was just a little prank. Mion gave me a wry smile mixed with confusion, causing even more anger to well up inside me. You think that was a prank? I grabbed Mion by the collar and lifted her up. That wasn't the same as putting Tabasco sauce in a piece of mochi. It was a needle, a sewing needle. If I had swallowed that and it lodged in my throat, what did she think would happen? Mion's face froze as her body rattled in fear. This wasn't the Mion Sonozaki I knew anymore. Anyways, you're not my friend. There's no reason for me to listen to someone who's not my friend. So just leave me alone for a while. Got it? Mion wasn't replying anymore. It won't be that easy to erase me, you know. The cops have been on to you from the start. So don't think you can make me disappear like you did Satoshi. I said it clearly. This was my declaration of war. I think you guys are suspects in the previous incidents too. I also know you spent a lot of time with the cops ever since the anti-dam movement. Don't think you can hide it from me. Got that? How did you know? Mion stood there with a dumbstruck look on her face. That was when I heard the principal ringing the bell for school. It was time for morning homeroom. Let's go. The class representative needs to be there, right? At that moment, for the first time, I realized Mion was sobbing as tears ran down her cheeks. You're so mean, Kei-chan. Me, I wanted to console her, but I shut my mouth. I had no need to feel guilty. I'm going. Don't be late for homeroom. I left Mion, still shaking, as I turned around to head for the entrance. I had no idea how troubling it was to make a girl cry. Behind my back, I could hear her muttering. It was a faint mutter, as she was speaking to herself. So that's how it is. She wasn't saying it to anyone. It was Mion talking to herself. But it was a sobbing voice that had a kind of giddy, cursing tone. I inadvertently stopped and turned back towards her. So it was that bastard. He licked it all to Kei-chan. She balled up her fists as her tears continued to rain down. She glared at a spot at the ground with a terrifying yet smiling face, cursing. A chill ran down my spine from that demonic expression. This transformation, Mion's transformation, was different from Rena's. I should have killed him back then. He forgot the mercy I showed him just because he was going to retire this year. Retiring this year? Was she talking about Oishi-san? Damn it. Damn it. I'm gonna kill that damn old man. It felt like the air itself had begun distorting. With Mion at the center, the world began to twist and spiral, bending, whirling. This was the first time I'd experienced such a visage. Rise. I think with that, we'll call it a day. So, yeah, neat. Well, fun fact, I guess, is one way to put it. When somebody changes their stance and flip flops between um, ways of um, um, like I am your friend, I'm not your friend, I am your friend, I'm not your friend. You only get that like maximum of twice before their entire opinion becomes moot. Because yeah, once somebody betrays you, the first one can potentially be misunderstanding, accident, something other. But you've now ratcheted onto very, very thin ice, and you get at most one chance depending on the circumstance. Second time, you've lost all credibility whatsoever. I don't believe any of them at all for anything. It's all crocodile tears at this point. Even if they are sad or whatnot, they have no ground to stand on anymore. In my eyes, anyway. Alright. Oh yeah, sure. Give me a name. One of the things I just don't raid. I can. I don't have anybody in particular to go after. So if you guys have anybody you would like to transfer to, me to raid, just give me a name and let me go. Or hell, if you're a mod, I think you can start that. Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I'm up for raiding. Well, let's give it a shot. What's the name? Right. Give me a name and I'll type it in and we'll start it up. But yeah, it's search followers, primes, and views. Come on, big follows. Yeah, no, those don't work. Those ads and those follow for follow, all that bullshit does not work. Yeah, that follow for follow stuff, it's just all hollow statements. It's Family of Guardians. Is that the Twitch channel? Name as is with spaces. Yeah, well, let's see if I can find the actual title for it. Okay, where are we? Okay, there we are. Oh, we'll go with that, and there we go. 7 seconds. Anyway, see you guys later. Have a good one. That was Twitch going. So, yeah. Alright, cool. So, we're going to raid. See you later.